Life moves fast, and so should the answers to your biggest questions. Welcome to Endo Batteries Quick Connect, your direct line to expert insights. Short, powerful, and right to the point. You send in the questions, I bring in the experts, and in just 5 minutes, you get the knowledge you need. No long episodes, no extra time needed. And just remember, expert opinions shared here are for general information and not for personalized medical advice. Always consult your provider for your case-specific guidance. Got a question? Send it in, and let's quickly get you the answers. I'm your host, Alana, and it's time to connect. Today, I have an incredible expert joining us, Dr. Jeff Arrington. If you've spent any time in the endometriosis community, you've probably heard his name. Dr. Arrington isn't just an excision specialist, he's a fierce advocate for informed consent and breaking down the barriers that keep so many from accessing proper endometriosis care. His passion goes beyond the operating room. He's fighting for real change, pushing back against misinformation, and making sure that patients have the knowledge and options they deserve. Let's dive in. Can the same provider address fibroids and endometriosis and still be considered endometriosis specialist?
Short answer to that is yes. Endometriosis by far is the most difficult surgery that, benign gynecologists do. Fibroids are quite a bit easier than endometriosis surgery. There are a number of us that do both. Honestly, I personally approach fibroids the same way that I would hope that other doctors would approach endometriosis. And, patients that have complex endo and really complex fibroids, like either really big fibroids or multiple fibroids, those things. I can do fibroids, but there are doctors who do a lot more fibroid surgeries than I do and probably do a better job than I do with complex fibroid removal. So I know when I was in Atlanta, occasionally we'd have a patient like that and I would team up with Dr. Soya Hawkins, who we would just tag team the surgery. I think that she clearly has more experience with fibroids than I do, just because I have such a heavy focus on endo. And here I've got a couple docs that do quite a few fibroids. And if needed, I team up with them, let them do the fibroid part and I do the endo. But, in cases where it needs to be done, my training included fibroid removal and I can do them. I enjoy the endometriosis more. Short answer is, doctors can do fibroids and endo. If the main key is being focused on the endo and appropriate training and approach to endometriosis, and then the fibroids are typically an easier part of that.
Does having an endometrioma always indicate deep disease?
Always is the key word. It's not always, but having an endometrioma, I think Dr. Charles Chaperon out of France years ago published a study that looked at the presence of an endometrioma with pain, I believe puts patients somewhere between 70 and 80% chance of having deep endometriosis in other places. It's extremely uncommon to have an endometrioma and not have endometriosis in other areas. I remember when I first started, I had been into robotics for a little bit, and with Intuitive, you'd have to go out and a new doctor would have to be proctored. So I'd go fly around different places and proctor new doctors as they're learning their first robotic cases. And I always hated talking to them ahead of time and having them say, well, it's just an endometrioma, because they had no idea what they were getting into, not even considering that it could be more than just the endometrioma when it almost always is. So endometrioma and pelvic pain together is a really strong marker that there's going to be more advanced disease.
Yeah. And we should consider, if someone sees something on ultrasound, then finding an endometriosis specialist right away.
I think that it ought to be brought, to me, that ought to be brought up in the discussion with the doctor. If they just say, we're going to go in and just take the cyst out, they should be aware that there can be more advanced disease. And that's a discussion that hopefully the doctor would have with the patient to say, there's an endometrioma there, you're having pain, there's a chance that there's probably deep endo in other places, and then just be honest about their experience with that deep disease. If they do a lot of deep disease, that's fine. You make a plan going in understanding that more work could need to be done. If they don't, to me, that should be presented to the patient as an option. We can go in and just focus on the cyst, or, there's a good chance that it's more advanced than just that. And, we can send a referral if you need one. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that happens very often.
No, not in my experience. That's a wrap for this Quick Connect. I hope today's insights helped you move forward with more clarity and confidence. Do you have more questions? Keep them coming. Send them in, and I'll bring you the expert answers. You can send them in by using the link in the top of the description of this podcast episode, or by emailing contact@endobattery.com or visiting the endobattery.com contact page. Until next time, keep feeling empowered through knowledge.